Taiwan's economy is strong, but it runs on a fragile network of maritime lifelines that could be severed in days. To see how China might cut them and why that would work, we need to examine Taiwan's potential single point of failure. So first, let's examine what makes an island economy so vulnerable to economic warfare. Taiwan's economy thrives as a high-tech manufacturing hub, but 97% of its energy arrives by sea through just a few major ports, with over half flowing through Kaohsiung alone. Taiwan needs uninterrupted maritime supply lines to maintain its just-in-time logistics system that keeps power plants, semiconductor factories, and hospitals running. The island has no integrated energy corridors, no strategic reserves beyond 2 to 3 weeks, and no redundant facilities, creating a single point of failure that can be exploited. When CSIS simulated even partial port closures, the just-in-time model that made Taiwan efficient suddenly becomes its greatest weakness, magnifying every disruption. Within 2 to 3 weeks of sustained maritime isolation, China could cut Taiwan's lifelines by exploiting a fragile logistics network with no redundancy, collapsing the economy without firing a shot. A blockade doesn't have to look like war. It can be framed as law enforcement. If China can turn maritime law into a coercive tool, it might strangle Taiwan while staying under the war threshold. To see how this might work, let's examine the PRC's legal warfare model, already tested in South China Sea. The PRC's three warfares doctrine, psychological, public opinion, and legal warfare, is designed to create strategic effects without open combat. China wants to achieve blockade effects while avoiding triggering immediate war or unified allied response. Traditional naval blockades are acts of war, but law enforcement operations exist in a legal gray area that's harder to counter. In CSIS scenarios, China declared safety inspections, pollution control zones, and anti-smuggling operations, with Whitehall Coast Guard conducting boardings under legal pretexts. China can strangle Taiwan by turning maritime law into a weapon, making the first overt act of war the defender's responsibility, keeping allies hesitant to escalate. Doctrine is meaningless without the capability to enforce it. Understanding the assets China could potentially deploy reveals how it might sustain a blockade without firing the first shot. Let's break down the modeled force package and why each element might be positioned where it is. China's built a layered naval force structure with destroyers, submarines, Coast Guard cutters, aircraft, and cyber units positioned around Taiwan. China wants to cut Taiwan's shipping by 80% while maintaining plausible deniability and deterring allied intervention. A single-layer blockade would be too obvious and vulnerable, while uncoordinated assets would create gaps Taiwan could exploit. The CSIS model revealed a three-ring system. The outer ring would be naval deterrence, the middle ring using Coast Guard enforcement, and then the inner ring would be ISR overwatch, all integrated throughout real-time targeting data and cyber operations. China can sustain a blockade without firing first by using each ring for specific functions: isolate, control, and deter, while cyber units crash the port systems and erase shipping databases simultaneously. A sudden total blockade invites resistance. A gradual squeeze might be harder to counter. China's potential escalation ladder could be designed to apply pressure without triggering immediate allied response. We'll map each modeled phase and its likely timelines. Democratic decision-making requires consensus building, legislative debates, multi-agency coordination, all taking precious time. China wants to create multiple fait accompli conditions where each escalatory step becomes the new normal before allies can respond. If China escalates too quickly, it triggers immediate resistance. Too slowly, and Taiwan can adapt and prepare countermeasures. The phased approach becomes clear. Phase 1, which is first week, begins with Coast Guard cutters conducting routine custom inspections at main ports. Phase 2 would be weeks 2 to 3. In this phase, we see the expansion of maritime safety zones, covering additional ports with televised vessel seizures as warnings. And then phase 3, which would be week 3 plus, escalates to full lockdown with missile batteries activated and cyber attacks crippling port operations. Each phase framed as reversible while cumulatively tightening the rope. China can leave the decision and political risk of starting a war to defenders by pacing escalation to exploit democratic delays, where allies debate Phase 1 response while Phase 2 is already underway. Taiwan has capable forces, but in a blockade scenario, using them early might do more harm than good. To understand why, we need to examine how Taiwan's operations can be constrained by geography, politics, and timing. First, let's explore what tools Taiwan actually has, and why most might be difficult to employ early in such a scenario. So Taiwan's Navy fields missile boats, stealth corvettes, ASW aircraft, and anti-ship missile boats, capable forces designed for coastal defense. Taiwan wants to break the blockade and restore maritime access without escalating to full-scale war or losing international support. Early kinetic actions risk narrative loss and escalation, geographic constraints limit rerouting options, and stockpiling only buys weeks, not months. CSIS simulations reveal that without rapid ally intervention, Taiwan's own capabilities couldn't prevent economic and political collapse from occurring first. Taiwan's endurance in blockade scenarios depends more on the speed and scale of external intervention than its own military capabilities. Geography and timing can constrain even capable forces. Breaking a blockade isn't just about having the ships. It's about acting fast enough to matter. The CSIS Wargame suggests what might work, but only if allies respond within days, not weeks. Here's how coalition forces could potentially break the cordon, and what the simulations show happens if they wait too long. Allied forces have the capability for multi-domain response, carrier groups, cyber operations, economic sanctions, and information warfare. Allies want to break the blockade through coordinated maritime, air, cyber, economic, and information operations without triggering a broader war. The coordination challenges are immense, synchronizing cyber attacks with ship movements, managing escalation risk where Coast Guard cutters challenge U.S. escorted vessels, and coordinating between naval commanders, cyber operations, and policymakers under extreme time pressure. The CSIS modeling revealed that delays allow China to entrench and normalize blockade conditions, exponentially increasing the force required to break the cordon. Allies can counter China's blockade strategy only through rapid, multi-domain coalition action. By week 3, hesitation transforms a manageable challenge into a potential military catastrophe, requiring exponentially greater force to resolve. A Taiwan blockade scenario would likely trigger a global economic shock. Understanding the potential worldwide fallout reveals why this scenario extends far beyond regional concerns. To see the full potential impact, we need to examine the industries and economies that would feel immediate effects. Taiwan produces over 60% of the world's semiconductors and over 90% of most advanced chips, making it indispensable for global electronics, automotive systems, and precision weapons. The global economy needs uninterrupted access to Taiwan's semiconductor production to maintain everything from power grids to consumer electronics. There are no alternative supplies for Taiwan's most advanced chips, and disruption of Asia-Pacific trade routes would ripple through global supply chains far beyond semiconductors. A blockade scenario would trigger immediate cascade effects. South Korea and Japan, both power grids failing. European automotive plants shutting down. U.S. military facing critical shortages in precision munitions and communication systems. This isn't just Taiwan's challenge. A successful blockade could shake the global economy more severely than the 1970s oil crisis, potentially triggering worldwide recession as supply chains collapse and inflation spikes across multiple sectors simultaneously. So quick caveat, it's crucial to note that wargaming models, while valuable analytical tools, have inherent limitations. They cannot capture all variables of real-world situations, including unpredictable political decisions, technological surprises, or full complexity of international responses. These scenarios represent possible outcomes based on current capabilities and assumptions, not predictions of what will happen. And so with that, just to recap, what this analysis of the CSIS wargaming demonstrates is that China potentially doesn't need an invasion to achieve strategic objectives. It might only need a doctrine that exploits ambiguity, maritime control, and economic fragility. The simulation suggests that in such scenarios, even if Taiwan survives a blockade, other challenges could emerge. Understanding these potential dynamics help us better prepare for various contingencies and the importance of maintaining deterrence through strength and alliance coordination. If you like this type of briefing, go ahead and hit the like button, subscribe, hit the notification bell. What aspects of this analysis do you find most concerning or surprising? Let us know in the comments below. Plan on looking at China's economy and how that can push this scenario one way or the other. So keep a lookout for that. And then we'll also be doing a video looking at China's ASAT weapons that they're developing. So until then, Sigma Actual out.